All right, this is our first live stream. Figured to play the music. Waiting on Tony. Tony had to go get a hat. But this is let me turn this down. This is the Waiting Since Last Saturday podcast. My name is Scott Duvall, and I'm joined by my co-host Tony Waller. Tony, putting the earbuds in right now. Tony, what's up?
Not a thing, man. I tell you, it's one of those deals where you do this long enough and suddenly it's just like, hey, we haven't talked in a while and we still have anything to talk about, but I miss talking to y'all.
I know. Unfortunately, I can't get Will on it because as amazing as this technology is, I can only add one other person at a time via Skype through this, router system that I'm using through Ecamm. It's a software called Ecamm, and it takes the Skype feed and puts it in with this camera feed that I'm looking at. And yeah, I've only gotten so far, but I've figured this all out over the past couple weeks, so I'm pretty excited about it.
Well, the cool part about all this stuff is that I get to see people's faces. As an extrovert, this has been really hard on me. I've tweeted out a couple of memes and some other things. I'm telling y'all, watch out. You're all getting hugs when y'all see me next because, dog, I'm missing other people. I love my kids and I love my wife, but just being out among people, it's been hard.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we take a walk every evening about 5:30 p.m. around the neighborhood and saying hello to people that I'd never spoken to, neighbors, and they're equally as friendly and as excited to see me across the street. Like I'm walking on this sidewalk and they're walking on this one, but it's great because we'll stop and chat at a very safe distance away from each other. And the kids, it's really heartwarming to be able to talk to people. It's amazing what you used to take for granted.
Yeah, so we are fortunate in that one of the businesses that didn't get shut down by the stop work order is outdoor construction activity. So yesterday and today, our pool got put up. And the key, we're literally, there's a 3,000 gallon water truck putting the last of 5 loads of water into the pool.
You're getting a pool?
We are getting a pool. I lost that vote 1-1. So I promised Kristen a pool for some time. And finally we kind of set it in motion back around the middle of January. And then we had enough rain to make an old man build a boat for February. Yeah. So it got pushed back. And it is actually installed now. And pretty fired up about that.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, at least it gives, we're all looking forward to something, I guess you could say, and that's definitely one of the things. And I think, 158 days till kickoff, tentatively speaking? Is that what the number is?
I think that's the number we're working with right now. I've tried really hard. I tell you, I'm glad this is April and not September or August. But we might be in this situation in August, but I'd be epileptic right now because I get to play a little bit of my typical off season. I was bummed over the weekend, missing the Final Four, of course, missing the NCAA basketball tournament. I'm a little bummed. I was bummed last week over the, missing opening day. But I probably won't get too fired up again until this coming weekend with the Masters.
Right.
And then I'll feel that same way about the Kentucky Derby. Although this weekend I was supposed to be at Keeneland watching the Maker's Mile on Friday, and that got canceled. So, the fun part is that, I don't mean this. It's gonna make me sound like a bad person. I don't mean it that way. I do like my kids, and I can spend a lot of time around my wife and does not want to hurt each other. So, and the other good news is we're getting a lot of stuff done. We got the screen porch finished. We got the garden put in. But Scott, I notice a lot of your social media stuff. Y'all are busy. Y'all take an extra long drive to go pick up dinner. And I would encourage anybody, no matter where you live, do that. Go out. Even if it's just once a week, go support your local restaurants. We have kind of a cycle where we hit the Pub on Main, and then we hit the pizza place in Watkinsville. We'll go to Takeri, Pandera, there at Butler's Crossing or Dominic's, and the idea is just these people are they're actually being pretty inventive to stay in business. For example, Pub on Main. I don't know how to confuse the two places other than I like me some pizza. They've started a general store where they're essentially selling about 20 or 30 staples out of essentially what they can get from Cisco. And I bought 5 pounds of ground beef and some of that sliced roast beef they use for there's a roast beef special sandwich.
Wow.
And I got to pick it up this week. And I thought it was pretty interesting that Sarah Wells, who's general manager there, had that idea because they're already doing a limited menu for their takeout, the curbside menu. And I thought, well, I'm probably going to go there and pick up a pub burger or something over the weekend. I might as well get some ground beef and some roast beef out of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that they were basically selling out provisions of their store. I did see that Athens restaurants are now selling to-go beer and wine, I think they can do, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, Pub on Main does the same. They'll sell you a 6-pack of like a mixed 6-pack of the Terrapin beers or whatever it is they have right now. That's the one thing that's bummed me out because I went to reason I was thinking about Dobie's. We went and got pizza the other day, and they have that open window right there that is where they're serving from, and it's a bar, right? It's right beside the bar. It's like, guys, you're going to put a stool out here and open a thing over me and play some Jimmy Buffett. I'm going to want a cold drink. They're like, well, we can't sell it to you. I was like, well, what happens if it just gets left on the counter here and I happen to see it and sample it? They did not fall for that.
Right. Yeah. We're going out every Friday evening. It's funny. Last week we got La Pria takeout, but we didn't get Watkinsville La Pria. We drove all the way to Homewood Hills just to be able to. I mean, we've been blessed with beautiful weather. We opened the sunroof. I rolled the back window down in the 4Runner, letting the air come through. And, it's about a 20-minute drive over there, and it was great. And another thing I've been doing is this is day 23 from my count, and I'm taking photos every day, kind of creating a personal log or visual journal, I guess you could say. So, and I'm posting some of those photos on social media, but that's how I'm coping with it, along with the continued less of watching. I'm watching less of the news basically every day. I'm just kind of keeping busy and hanging out with the kids and the wife. So I'm making the best of it. Before you chime in, Tony, I wanted to say hello to Sea Dog Knight, Jim Wood, Ian Boatman, and Terry Cruz, who have all joined and said hello. So thanks, guys, for joining us on this maiden YouTube Live with Tony and me. And I'll go ahead and let y'all know, Will is going to be with me at 3:30 on Thursday, so we'll be promoting that as well. Tony, you got any Georgia Bulldog news to hit on?
Well, I kind of preface this to say that exactly what I said earlier is in that I try to actively turn my brain off about it because I will get wrapped around the axle if I'm not careful. I think there's some interesting thought experiments going on among national media with all the time on their hands about quarterback play in the SEC East. Of course, I'm sure, Scott, you saw the Jamie Newman.
I did.
I had to take. Yeah, it was on TikTok. That's right. And I was, God, I sounded 107 years old, didn't I? On the TikToks. And, my first thought when he threw that ball was like, yeah, somebody out there like Dan Watkins be like, yeah, but you're throw it over the middle. And, there's an ongoing, discussions about the quarterback play in the SEC East because you have, Kyle Trask and you have, frankly, this stoppage is helping Jared Garantano hang on to his job at Tennessee, for example. And, who's the starting quarterback at Florida? And it's like, will the combination of Jones and Trask be better than whatever? They're going to both win the Heisman. I don't know if you know that, Scott, but that's the thing.
I've heard that, yeah.
And, yeah, both of them are winning the Heisman. So it's easy for people to work themselves into a lather and what is an extended silly season. Honestly, um, I don't. I think the one other thing the one other thing that we had out there is, I don't know if you pay attention to Scott Sinclair on Twitter, but he's putting together daily workouts that rival the crap that our CrossFit instructor has been giving us.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so
Yeah, I've been watching
and,
him and a couple other Bulldogs posting on Twitter. I follow a couple of them. It's good to see that people are, you get a shot into everybody's normal lives. Scott Sinclair is in his garage, kind of going over
yeah,
what the workout is. It's just, and even like the athletes on the TikToks, as Tony says. I was seeing Trey Young. I mean, he's just at home and he's dancing, doing a dancing TikTok like my wife and my kids are trying to create. It's surreal.
yeah. I just noticed on the chat on the Facebook Live, Mitchell Smeek asked when I'm going to make a TikTok. So my kids are actually teaching me one of the TikTok dances
Oh yeah.
because I promised my law students that I would put out a TikTok sometime during this. I'm not sure when that's going to be. I'm not even sure if I'll create a TikTok account just to do that. But stay tuned. If I end up doing it, I'll make sure Scott has the opportunity to post it and embarrass me with it. Frankly, not embarrass me because I'm a hell of a dancer. As good as singers, I am a dancer. So who knows? I could be the little Nas X next.
Here's the thing, Tony. You don't like. My wife is on TikTok. She just started it in quarantine life, and she's done a couple dances and everything. However, the one that got the most shares and has gotten over 27,000 views was her just showing steps in about 15 or 20 seconds on how to correct messed up chocolate cake. Where you put the icing in the microwave, and she was cutting it. And it was just a helpful thing. So what I'm saying with that is that you could get on it and help us all of us novice grillers out there on little tips on how to make the dry rub a little bit better or how long to smoke your meat. And that way you'd get a bit of a following through that.
Yeah, if you kind of think about it's not the Laffer curve. What's the curve where they talk about the more you know about something, the less confident you are in something.
Yeah. It's
I
called
am
imposter syndrome.
very happy. Well, yeah, I hear that too. So one of the things that I'm always worried about is because I'm not at all ashamed of my cooking ability, particularly when it comes to smoked meat. But there are a lot of people who are better than me, and smoked meat is one of those divisive things where people really get fired up about it. So that's I try to be careful about it, and my posture on that, as long as you don't call, I guess what you're doing in the backyard or the grill, what you're cooking on a barbecue, I'm pretty low key about stuff.
Yeah. How do you like this comment right here? Tony and TikToks would be a great brand name from Sea Dog Night. Tony and the TikToks. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, and that we'll have a T-shirt with the TikToks on it. So
yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities. I mean, I'm just stuck here in my bunker, coming up with creative ideas for this show. So hopefully, or on Bourbon Tasting as Terry Crews pipes in there. I think that would be appropriate. Tony, you could just do a tasting of bourbon. What do you got right now?
Maker's Mark. Well, I mean, I'm doing a podcast, and I'm strictly a Maker's Mark man in the course of the podcast. So
I got another question for you. What's up, Eric? Eric Streetenberger says, "What's up?" So I'm saying hello to him. So any talk? I know your ear is closer to campus than I am. I read the article that Mike Griffiths put out about the fund that Georgia has, the reserve fund, and how the dogs are fine. Basically, they got $100 million in that reserve fund. And in the article, it was interesting because McGarity was talking about, or I think he gave the stats on very few colleges and universities are in as good of a situation as Georgia is. And actually, what he was saying is like Georgia could weather not getting any revenue from college football this year. And of course, we don't want to talk about that, but we're kind of being real here. Do you know anything about the reserve funds and how important that is to Georgia athletics as it stands?
Well, I think the one thing it does for Georgia athletics is it allows them to seriously consider the welfare of the athletes and making decisions about when we come back and play. Although obviously Georgia is part of a bigger ecosystem and is only a small part of that, even though they are one of the big players, especially on the revenue side. In this, and we'll probably touch on this a little bit with the Masters talk. With football TV revenue, that's the milk cow for everybody. And that trickles down to P5, down to G5, it trickles down to Division II for that matter. When you start talking about buyout games. And I think, Scott, you had an interesting question asking about, or musing maybe that it would, some of this may actually result in some reshuffling of what is going to happen and hasten the changes that could come within the structure of major college football and maybe major college athletics. And the other thing it does, though, it also allows Georgia to be, and I'm probably being a little Pollyannish here, allows Georgia to be a little less mercenary in approaching their alumni whenever we start coming out of this. I mean, there are going to be some places that, regardless of when they start back, because essentially with the adding of the fifth year of eligibility and allowing schools to put forward whatever aid they essentially deem to these athletes, you're talking about real money, and especially when you start spreading across a lot of different sports. There are going to be some places that will, Georgia, for example, will be able to take advantage of that. And there'll be some places that just, frankly, will not be able to afford even to offer any aid. And that's another place where Georgia will be able to be a beneficiary of certainly a frugal fiscal approach at times, but certainly also Georgia making hay out of the past couple of years of football success.
Yeah, can you imagine even a smaller state school, when we do come out of this, the letters that they're going to have to write and kind of give to their past donors and say, hey, look, if you want things to try to look like they used to look, at least on the athletic fields in football, we need $2,000 extra or whatever you can give. And it's going to feel like an awkward exchange, I'm sure, because they don't have the reserves. So I don't envy that at all. I think it's terrible. It's just one of those things that, the trickle down effect for this whole thing that we're all going through.
Yeah. And, in the end, I think what you end up with is you have to start figuring that no matter what happens, some of that reserve fund is going to get spent because we have, there are actual hits being taken right now, not just in donations, but also I wouldn't be surprised at all if season ticket sales are down. With the uncertainty of a football season.
I had to pay for my tickets yesterday. I had to stroke a check. Well,
yep.
I had to charge it, but I didn't want to spend that money right now. And they offered a payment plan, but I was kind of like, you know what, just go ahead and take, but it was such a tough buy right now. And I mean, I get it. And I know that if the season, we're not even going to say that, but if something bad happens to the season, then I know that, they'll refund the money, but it's still like bad timing on asking really anybody for an extra however many dollars it costs to get the seats.
Yeah. And I think that's also a place where you'll see Georgia be able to, Georgia's fans will be able to hopefully see some, I don't know, maybe I'm being a little too hopeful.
Yeah. So we got
I don't want you eye rolling at me, so yeah. I'll stop.
So Terry asked an interesting question. Would Jamie Newman get another year of eligibility if the season's not played? Because he's a
I don't know. That's
transfer.
Well, they would have to act specifically on fall sports.
So
look, man,
Eric chimes in and says that's what the NCAA did with spring sports. You would assume they would follow, and I agree with what Eric says there. I think that would probably happen if that's the case.
Yeah, probably. But what you would be up against is, I mean, Jamie Newman, and maybe his stock in the NFL wouldn't be any different if he went ahead out. But the heavy lift with football, of course, is football scholarships are full cost of tuition, whereas except for men's basketball and women's basketball, all the rest of the sports are not, or they're, you get 11.5 baseball scholarships or whatever it is. So you're talking about 85 actual scholarships as opposed, and then when you add a class on top of that, and you're talking what are they going to do? Allow you to go to 100 scholarship players or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I think if we have football season, even if we are playing, I don't know, we're playing Alabama at the end of January in Tuscaloosa as opposed to the end of September, I think that's the thing. I think that's a possibility. I think that is more of a possibility than not having the season.
Yeah, no, I agree. So let's move on to the Masters in November, and of course it didn't take long for Georgia fans to figure out that was the same day that the Saturday of the Masters would be the same day that Georgia and Tennessee play here in Athens. So there was a lot of ink spilled on Twitter or tweets fired out about the timing of that. And so you sent me, and I'll pull it up right here. You sent me what Wes Blankenship had tweeted out, and that's the potential schedule. Can you see that? And so I wanted you to kind of
can't see it.
You can't see it on the screen?
Well, no, but it'll pop up in a second. The one thing that comes to mind is with SEC and the CBS is going to do something with that football game in the afternoon, whether they request and get a night game or whether they turn around and get a noon game out of CBS and allow them to have the Masters on in the afternoon. But that Georgia-Tennessee game, that's a really interesting matchup. I did see some chatter out there between Herb Street and maybe, I don't know, somebody else saying, hey, what if we were to do game day from Augusta and then potentially have, Georgia-Tennessee that night or something. That would be a really interesting thing. And they've done that before, right? They've done some one-off interesting stuff going on where they're not actually at the football stadium.
You're talking about the Masters and how buttoned up, and I don't want to say anything wrong. Not that I have a Masters badge, but I don't want them to preclude me from getting one in the future. But the first thought that popped in my mind was, are they going to allow Pat McAfee, on the grounds of Augusta, like trying to jump in, a lake or something? Because he's the guy that's always jumping off like riverboats I saw on one game day. They would have to really peel that down. Maybe have Scott Van Pelt host game day or something there, but it would be something to see.
No. Oh, no. First off, I guess there's a world where Augusta National, if they pay them enough money to let them on the grounds, but probably what you're more likely to see is them in the Hooters parking lot across Washington Road in front of Magnolia Lane. I assume there's Hooters there, I've heard. Probably that's what you'll see more likely than, or, one of the big parking lots, way off on the east side, the west side of the grounds, kind of the patron entrance there. Sure. Off of, I can't remember that little side road. But yeah, I think that wouldn't, sorry, I was just looking at the comments pop up. Mitchell Sneak just said the same thing I did.
Yeah. So what do you think about Jim Wood's question? He said, what's more weird, the Masters in November or playing Tennessee in November?
Oh, the Masters in November.
I agree.
We play Tennessee every year, so if we play them in November, we play them in November. That's fine with me. I'm not one of these people who believe that we have to play Tennessee at a certain date.
I agree.
It would get used to playing Auburn at a certain a time other than the end of November, but whatever. It's we play them, and that's what matters to me. Although the fact that we're playing South Carolina later makes me happy just because it pisses them off.
Yeah, you used to get that the second game of the season with South Carolina, and Spurrier would schedule a cupcake on a Thursday, and they'd get a couple extra days to prepare for Georgia.
Yeah, cupcake like NC State.
Exactly. All right, so a couple other comments. Ian says, I don't believe that they would allow the environment and that environment inside the grounds. I agree with that. On the Riverwalk in downtown would be interesting. That's probably the case on that. So I also have a couple of some of the people actually online right now watching this live stream. They sent some Twitter questions, so I'm gonna ask these towards you. And while you answer this first one, I'm gonna brighten my camera up a little bit because it's bothering me. So I'm gonna tee this up for you. There you go. Can you read that?
I can't see the questions at all.
Okay.
That's why I was telling you earlier that when you screen share, for some reason it does not show up on my screen.
I will read this for you. This is from at Jville Dog, Thorpe Langton. He says, "Hey fellas, first time, long time. Georgia famously paused G-Day so folks could watch Bubba putt for an eagle. If a similar situation presents with Bubba or any other UGA guys during an SEC game, does Georgia take a momentary pause? Do they do it if Reed is working on a quintuple bogey?"
I think it's more likely they do it if Reed is about to 8-putt. If he keeps hitting the windmill at Amen Corner, yeah, they'll definitely pause it. No, I don't think TV is going to let anybody pause anything because there's a whole difference between G-Day, where it's actually a scrimmage, is one of the practices, than it is for a game.
Yeah,
there might be live cut-ins if you're watching the game on TV.
Could be. All right, this comes from at JimDog08. He says, Jimmy Duncan is his name. He says, if the Masters in Georgia football actually happened this year, would Georgia move the Tennessee game to Knoxville this year and then play here in 2021? Opens up hotels and splits up the UT Vandy games, both home and both away. Thanks, and go Dogs.
Oh my God, the ink that would be spilled over that. I don't see it happening.
Plus, we did that with Auburn and had to trade games, and we never got that back, and that could be a bad thing.
No, we got plenty. We got all the magic beans. It's fine. We got all the magic beans.
Well, we are 12-3 against them in the past 15 years. Same record that we have versus Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech. Tell that to any Auburn fan, and then see what they say. All right, this comes from Mark. Go ahead, Tony.
No, I was about to say, the Auburn fans don't like that.
No. All
right. I guarantee you, if they had not, if we were not in the age of social media, they 100% would have made rings that said beat Bama and Georgia in the same season in 17. Yeah, or beat the champion and the runner-up, something.
Right. All right, this comes from at Mark_J_Mathis. Over under 3 years before the ripple effects of current events and all the other fault lines that were there before them make the NCAA irrelevant, and we get a true Power 5 plus Notre Dame mega football league with an expanded playoff, player compensation, etc. He says, I'm going under.
Ooh, that's not an unfair bet. Hold on. I finally have called up and can see the questions. So what this will line up with will be the next round of conference. I'm sorry, television and conference contracts. It's hard to see them. I don't know. I'd take the over, but not much.
Yeah, I think it could be well on its way. All right, this is from Eric, and he's I think he's with us right now. Eric says, Eric_Street. Would you rather have a shortened season with a modified schedule or play in the winter/spring?
Ooh. Dog, going to Lexington on February the 2nd does not appeal to me. I don't know. That's a good question. I hadn't even given that a thought. I would. I mean, part of me would say I think I'd rather play a shortened schedule. Although I am very well aware of the pain that our friends in Athens that are suffering by not having anything going on right now, and the possibility of losing home football games, particularly home football games that people are going to be 100% happy about. So,
yeah. All right. Next question comes from Sea Dog Knight. What college game do you think will draw the second biggest crowd at the Benz? West Virginia, Florida State, Auburn, North Carolina, or Notre Dame, Georgia Tech? Interesting fact, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, I think also play on that Masters weekend.
Probably Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, because Notre Dame's never been in. Notre Dame's like, they're going to show us. They're not going to play in that stadium anytime soon. Not to mention, if you're in Chicago and South Bend, you're going to go to Atlanta in November.
All right, here comes one from Irked Russell. What do you think about Kemp opening the Georgia beaches one day after closing them?
It's not a great time. It is, trying to think of how the best way to say this. I get what you're doing, right? But it does send a mixed message when you say, hey, everybody stay at home, but here's all this stuff out in public that's open. On one hand, I see that. On the other hand, you are encouraging people to get out and do wellness things. The hard part is, and where you're really going to end up with the issue is when you get a big mass of people that the state patrol can't disperse. And then what do you do? Then you're just violating the thing. I've seen people talk about the parking at this place or that place. And I just think it is inartful to say we want people to take this seriously, and then you're turning around and opening up state parks and beaches.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Now, if you were down there, like if I'm sitting there thinking if I was down there, I'd probably just keep my happy behind at home. But that's just me. All right.
Well, the bigger issue is people traveling to say, hey, we should go to the beach today, and driving from Macon to Tybee because it's something to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you're driving to Homewood to get La Paria. So
yeah, exactly. All right, last question.
Not that you shouldn't, but
last question from Ian. Your favorite drive-by trucker song? I mean, how many are you going to list off?
I could have all day on this. For the longest time, I probably would have said, I don't know, man.
Well,
for the longest time, I would have said,
mine. I'll give you mine.
Okay.
I like the song "Surrender Under Protest." I like the guitar riff on it, the lyrics. It's a driving song, and I don't mean driving. I mean like it's just driving the whole time. And I heard that live at the Fox Theater, and that was pretty good.
So I was going to say, for the longest time, something a little funner, more like Three Dimes Down, or Where the Devil Don't Stay is such a fantastic song. But I will tell you now that it is hard to beat Surrender Under Protest. I kind of have a habit when I fly of playing, usually a song when I take off and land. It's just really focus my mind so I don't freak out over the controlled crash nature of landing, or all the stuff you can go on while physics take effect over a 500,000 pound metal tube.
Right.
So that recently, Surrender Under Protest the past couple of years has overtaken Three Dimes Down, or oh man, Goodbye is such a powerful song too. It's interesting. I'm one of the few DBT fans that think Brian Creation's dark, and that era is stronger than the English Oceans and Forward stuff. It's not that the stuff now is bad. It's just that music, it really is born out of a hard time for that band, and the Truckers they're really good at writing music when they're pissed off, which is frankly why American Band was such a good album, is because they were pissed off.
Yeah.
And you can see that in the writing from that stuff from the mid-aughts.
All right. So anybody listening right now, we're about to jump into Georgia Bulldogs trivia. This is an inaugural event. I guess it works well with YouTube Live. And so, Tony, I've created 5 trivia Jeopardy questions. And so anybody listening, go ahead and tweet out to your friends or followers, or text them saying jump on the Waiting Since Last Saturday YouTube Live right now, because we are about to jump into some Jeopardy, and Tony is going to have to answer it. And these are all Georgia football related. And Tony, you should know these. And please frame your response and the answer of a question. Isn't that right? Yeah, that's how you do it.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Well, this should be really good. Yeah, people yell at their computers.
Oh, I know. This will be great. So here's the $200 question. You ready? All right. Can you see this?
Yeah.
All right. I'll read it. This Georgia Bulldog threw the key block to spring Sony Michel for the game-winning touchdown in the second overtime of the 2018 Rose Bowl.
The funny thing I'm saying here is, like, he's going to ask me a Rose Bowl question. I got to be honest. I have no idea who it. I know it's a wide receiver, but cannot tell you who it is.
Anybody in the comments section know the answer to this? We'll let it go for a little bit. We got a couple of viewers. We'll get a shout out to them if they know it. I guess not. So you are incorrect, Tony. The correct answer is, who is Jake Fromm?
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that play.
Well, you can listen
to it. I was busy yelling, "Oh my God!" So.
Yeah. So Scott Howard even calls his name in the touchdown run, which is pretty awesome. And you can go listen to that on the podcast, I think. So yeah. All right. So 0 for 1. Jim.
It looks like Jim and Eric Schreberger got it. It's like Kyle Martin had the same problem I had, which is
well, Mitchell actually gets it, because Mitchell says, "Who is Jake Fromm?" and he answered in the form of a question. So Mitchell gets it correctly. All right. So question number 2, the $400 question. Tony, here you go. The final score in one of the greatest college football games of all time. The Georgia Bulldogs defeated the Oklahoma Sooners in the second overtime of the 2018 Rose Bowl. What was the final score?
Hold on, make sure I get this right.
I got to make sure I get it right. As I know it, but I don't want to screw it up. I got it.
It was a 52-48.
Oh, you got to say it in the form of a question.
What is 52-48?
Wrong. What is 54-48?
54. Oh, yeah, God, Eric, I did the math wrong.
Eric got it again.
Yeah.
All right. So you're 0 for 2. So now to the $600.
I mean, Terry thought that. So
I know. But here's the $600 question. Terry got it. Yep. All right. In 2001, Veron Haynes caught this long of a touchdown pass from David Green, and the Dogs beat the Volunteers in an exhilarating fashion in Knoxville. How long was the pass?
What is a yard? I don't remember exactly how long it was, but I'm going to go with what is 3 yards.
Close. The answer, anybody know that? Waiting for Jim or Eric to chime in. You're close, Tony. The correct answer is, what is 6 yards? He threw a 6-yard pass. Jim says math is hard. It's okay. All right, Tony.
Math is hard.
You're 0 for 3. You've got 2 more to redeem yourself. All right, here's the $800 Jeopardy question. David Green was 4 of 5 passing on the game-winning drive in Knoxville, and this is the 2001 game. Veron Haynes caught the winning touchdown pass. The 2 of us combined for the other 3 receptions. So basically, this is 2 former Georgia Bulldogs players asking this question for you. Who are the other 2 players that caught the other passes on that game-winning drive in 2001 up in Knoxville? Jim even says...
Who are Fred Gibson and I don't know.
The answer, you are incorrect. The answer is Damian Gary and think of that big tight end back then, Randy McMichael.
Oh, wow. Damian Gary was still playing in 01?
You remember?
I think he was a freshman when I was in college.
Damian Gary had a big punt return in that game.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he might.
There's been a lot of football in Bourbon since then.
Yeah, he might have scored. Yeah, Jim Wood got it correct. Eric got it correct. So, yeah, look at that. Eric got it correct.
Yeah, Kyle would have half of it, so, yeah.
Yeah, so, all right, this is the final Jeopardy question. You are 0 for 4. And here it is. David Green. Oh.
I don't know Jim Donnan's middle name, so.
Hold on. Uh-oh. I duplicated it. There is not a 5th question. Hold on.
Yes. My pride is saved.
I made a mistake. What was the other question I was going to have on that? You know what? I'll ask one that I was going to save. All right, Tony. You're going to have to listen to this one. This is 2002. Yes, Jim confirms Damian Gary had a punt return for a touchdown in that game. He flipped in the end zone and got a flag. Hey, Kristen.
Yeah, the wife just walked by. Apparently it's raining now.
Oh, it is. Okay, all right, last question.
I hope not in the house.
This is the $1,000 question. In the 2002 SEC championship game, Georgia won 30-3 over what team?
Who are the Arkansas Razorbacks?
That's correct. That's a good way to end. I have, and on our next episode with you and me, I have a follow-up question to the 2002 SEC championship game, so make sure you study up on that because I don't want you to miss it. It's a tough one, but I think you'll get it.
Okay. I sat in row 174 at the Georgia Dome.
I did too. So what is this guy? Oh, Eric. He says, I had a class with Damian Gary that semester. Guy never came to class. Well, I mean.
Well, you flip into the end zone. You don't got to do a class.
Yeah. All right. So this concludes our YouTube Live. That's all I had on the list. Ian got it correct. He said, who is Arkansas? I guess the comments are a little bit delayed. So, yeah, all of them are nailing it. But, yeah, this has been fun. I'm going to give us a round of applause just because I can. Thanks, guys. But
I appreciate everybody.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just about to say, I appreciate everybody taking the time. I think, I suspect that everybody's dealing with some of the same things that Scott and I are dealing with. And it really is a matter of trying to make sure that we just kind of keep our heads in the right place. And I got to be honest, Scott, I'm enjoying this use of new technology, but I'm ready for the three of us to get back in talk. I will tease are we calling Signature Series or Spotlight Series? I do this every time.
Spotlight. You always mess up, but that's fine.
I have a Spotlight Series coming up that I think a lot of people are going to be really excited about. I don't want to tease it yet, but I've been talking to somebody that has enormously interesting insight into firing up the crowd at Georgia football games and on the road, and I think it'll be a fun interview. Oh, cool. And I'm looking forward to doing that. Hopefully I'll get that lined up for later in the week or next week. And I want all three of us to get on something, even if it's just old fashioned jump on the phone and chat.
Amen to that. And yeah, everybody listening or watching the replay of this, we plan on doing a lot more of this stuff. So share our YouTube channel with all of your other Georgia friends that might not know about it, and share this actual episode. It'll be up there on YouTube where you can say, hey, watch this, fast forward to the 30-minute mark or whatever. Maybe you can watch Jeopardy again or share this with anybody like that. But we appreciate that, just getting the word out. So yeah, that's about it. Tony, you want to sign us off with the Go Dogs?
Oh, yeah, guys. Hey, remember, this will pass one day, and we'll all get together. There'll be hugs and bourbon. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Scott.